Okay, I wanted to show you how to go about showing your work on Excel. Like if you go in here into week 1 and it says show your work on Excel, important view this before working on the quiz. So if you click on that, um, and it says instructions right here, it says show your work on the quiz in an Excel workbook. Each problem should be in a separate labeled worksheet in Excel workbook. Use Excel formulas, just don't type the answer. Separate your problems into sections labeled as given, find, and solution where appropriate. Your work should be your own. Watch this video before you start, before it shows how to show your work. So there's a video there, but I'm going to record another video because some students missed the first week of class. Right, I cancel class the first week, and the second week some students miss. So I'm just going to show you again how to show your work. So let's just go ahead here into this quiz chapter 1, and I'm going to go launch. Hopefully this will open up for me. Since I'm technically not a student and I'm in student view, it might not work. Okay, yeah, so I'm going to have to launch it. I'm going to go ahead and launch it. I'm going to go launch it in my Connect. Let's go to quiz chat. This may not look quite what your quiz looks like, but we'll just go ahead and do it. So okay, so here's the problem. And can I zoom in? There we go. So this is the problem, and the way you want to do this, you won't, like when you're doing the work, it won't show you the answer here, but I'm going to go ahead and show it here because it's just easier. But you probably just get the question. Since I'm here in a teacher view, it's not going to look quite like this. But anyway, this is the question. This is the question you might get. So the way you use Excel is you want to use it like a big old piece of scratch paper. So what you can do is take a screenshot of this and go put it into Excel, so you don't have to be going back and forth. So I'm going to hold the window key, the shift key, S-H-I-F-T, and the S key at the same time. And it gives me something called the screen snip. I can do a screen snipper, I think it's called, or whatever. I'm just going to snip this so I can paste it into Excel. And I'm going to go down here, I'm going to type EXE for Excel and hit enter. And Excel will start up. And I'm going to start a blank workbook. I'm going to go ahead and save it. I'm going to go File, Save As, and I'll just say Show Work on Quizzes. And I don't know where I'm going to. I'll just save it anywhere. Oh, you got to be careful here. Very important. Don't save it as this, right? We want to save it as a XLSX workbook, right? So make sure you check that to make sure you want to save it as an Excel file. All right, so now I opened up a new one, and I'm going to label this. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to label it. I'm going to label it Quiz 1-1 for quiz chapter 1, problem 1. And I'm going to go ahead and just paste that in here, what I just got. All right. So there, I'm going to shrink it down a little bit so I can zoom in so you guys can see. Okay. And what I like to do, like it said in the instructions, you want to go given. And so the way Excel works, this equation here is it says analyze to determine the dependent variable is related to independent variable. The equation is y equals 110x plus 4. Well, so I'm going to go here and go y equals. Yeah, I'm going to put the 110, or 110, I'm going to put that separate because I want to click on that later, right? And then I'm going to do plus. So I just can't do a plus sign because Excel won't like that because it's going to think it's a formula. Well, I guess it does do a plus. Normally you want to do apostrophe plus, right? Because usually symbols Excel won't like. So if you run into a problem with like if I go equals, I know equals doesn't work. Well, it does. Well, Excel changes. Anyway, I usually, if you ever run into a problem, you want to do apostrophe plus. Okay, and then we're going to put 4 separate, and then I'm going to put X over here to the right. So see how I put the numbers separate so I can click on them later. Because remember the instruction says you should have given, find, and solution. If you go back and read your instructions, and this is basically how I do Excel, because later if I change these, then you'll see that it's all dependent on my assumptions in my given area. Right, so we have that, And then we also have x is equal to 15. Now I don't type x equals, I just go x and 15 because then I'm kind of inferred that equals there, right? And what we want to find. So far it's really no stress at all here, is it? I'm just kind of putting in what I see on the problem, reading the problem and putting the information in. So now what do we want to find? We want to find the estimated value of y. So I'll just say y. That's what I want to find, right? So for a solution, okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the solution in, and so the solution is going to be, I'm going to go y again here, and I'm going to say it's equal to, well, I'm going to do it just the way it is here, 110 plus, the next thing is 4 times x, and we know x is 15. And the answer is 170. So you would want to highlight your answer yellow. Now if you want to, you can go ahead and go equals formula text here. And click on that to show the formula. You don't have to, because I can just go look at it. I can just click on the number and see that you put a formula in. Now the incorrect way would have been if I saw equals 110 plus 4 times 15. So that's what so if I marked off on your homework, it's because you did something like that, right? I want you to refer to whatever's in the given. I don't want you to be typing the numbers again. Because the reason you do that way, the reason you do it this way, is if I change this to 115, well then that's going to automatically update that, right? So so that way if you have an exam, you can just go in here and pull this up and say, oh, I remember that problem. It was a quiz problem, and just an exam is probably going to have different numbers. You just change these three numbers and give you the. And then on your exam, you could just go down here. You could rate. If you have to show your work on the exam, you could right-click down here, go move or copy, create a copy. You will say to a new book. Go OK. Now I would rename this as exam 1-1, and then and then I would send this in, right? Change, of course, change the numbers. This might be different, and you change these numbers. So now you can just use it as a template. Okay, so this type of work this is a good way to do this type of stuff. Okay, so anyway, so that's simple as that. That's how you would do that problem. Very easy, right? So let's go ahead and look at the next one. Let's do another problem just to kind of get the idea. So here's one that's very similar, right? So the nice thing, it was very similar. I can go ahead and copy this problem, right? So what I can go down here, I can go right click, move or copy. Now I just want to move to the end, and I'm going to create a copy because I'm going to do it within the same workbook. I'm not going to go on a new book. I'm going to do it, and I'm just going to move it to the end. So I have Q1-12, and I'm going to rename this as the second problem in chapter 1. Rename it down here in a separate worksheet. Always have your problems in a separate worksheet. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to go back to my quiz. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go Window-Shift-S. Paste this in. Let me try that again. Window-Shift-S. I didn't paste the whole thing. Got in too big of a hurry. And go back to my Excel. And paste this in. You can paste it wherever you want. If you make it smaller, you can paste it to the right? And then, so now we're going to put in the new number. So now this is 110 plus 2x. X is now 20. And automatically crank that out. So I just did the whole week's homework just like that. That's how easy it was. Okay? So let's go ahead and look at another problem. I know I'm going kind of fast, but you can pause the video and go back and look too, right? So, that way people that know what's going on, I don't have to be talking real slow. All right, so that's it for that quiz. So let's go back home and let's look at quiz chapter 2. This is very important because on quiz chapter 2, if you go into preview, so how are you going to show your work? This quiz doesn't have a lot of problems that have quantitative questions, right? So you don't have to do anything on these. So if you take the whole quiz and there's no quantitative question, well, you got a freebie, right? You can say, okay, there were no quantitative questions, and just turn that in, and I'll give you the points for show your work. So we skip quiz 2. So now let's go on to quiz 3. Oh, by the way, once you get this, then when you go into when you go into your class, let's go back into the class. And you go into week 1 under show your work on Excel. It's past due, right? So in this case, it's past due. You would just email it to me. If I told you it's okay to turn it in late, just email it to me and say, this is quiz 1, show your work for QUMT. What class was this? QUMT, or management 4413001W, right? And then and those of you, someone I told you, I docked points on this first show your work because you didn't do it the way I told you. Well, you can just go ahead and email it to me, right? If you want to get your points, do it. If you want to do it the right way and get your points, go ahead and do that, and I'll give you the points. Just email it to me. But let's say it's week 2 if I wanted to turn something in. So this is the week 2 work. Whoops, wrong one. Okay, so view instructions, and you could just drag and drop that file, drag and drop that file in. So I can go to I'm not sure where I saved it. Let me see where I saved it here. Let me go back to File Save As. I saved it into OneDrive. Okay, so let's go look on OneDrive. So let me go find OneDrive. Where is OneDrive? And let me go by date modified. So this one here, so what I could do, let me go back here. So I could drag and drop this in, right? So it says drag it into here. Show work not going to be loaded. Okay, probably what happens is I have it open. So I'm going to close it now. Let me save it first. I'm going to close it. Now let's see if I can drag and drop that in. And save. And submit. Well, hold on. So if you don't send me an Excel file, I'm going to mark points off, right? So there it is. And you go submit, submit. So that's how you would normally do it. Okay? Let's go ahead and do one more. Let's go work on week 3, just to kind of get the idea. So let me go back, open that up. So you can. The students had a good idea yesterday. They asked me if they can just add tabs on, just keep one workbook, and that's fine if you want to do that. So we'll just go. But the thing is, if you turn in for week 3, save it on Q3, right? That way, when I open it up, it's right there. It's not on Q1. So save it there, and then you can so you can just have one big old workbook for the whole class for every week. You can just add on separate labeled sheets, right? So anyway, so let's go back to Connect. And let's do quiz 3. And I'm going to go preview. And so it says here, let's just copy this in. So I'm going to go Window Shift S. And I'm going to go back to Excel. Paste this in. So now this one is, we'll label it Q3-1. So the first problem on chapter 3, again, we'll go given, bold and underline, and let me zoom in a little bit again so we can see better. Shrink this down. Okay, so we're given outcome variables of I'll call it 5, 4, 4, 7, and we'll call this x sub I. Okay, and we'll call this I 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's four items, right? 4 items I, and each I This is I sub 1, I sub 2, I sub 3, I sub 4. Right? X sub I, X, this is X sub 1, X sub 2, X sub 3, and X sub 4. Okay? So I'm just going to put it in, and then I'll put it in so it makes a little bit of sense to you. So I'm going to go find. So what I want to find the regression index. Okay? And so the solution, the first thing you want to do is you want to find X bar. And let me paste that formula in here. Kind of hard to read. Try that again, Windows Shift S. Okay. So what that is, that's called, I have to call it X bar, because it's X with a bar on top. So it's equal to the sum. It's equal to the sum of these divided. This should be N on the bottom instead of 4. I don't know, they made a mistake. It should be I. The sum of I equals 1 to N of X sub I. So it's that plus that plus that divided by the number of them. So that's actually the average. So you could say, I could use this up here, this auto sum. I could drop down and say average. It's the average of those. All right. So the X bar, so let me put the formula. You could actually type equals average too. I'm just showing you a shortcut. So the next thing we want to do is find the regression index. And this is the formula for the regression index. Excuse me. Sorry, I had to pause the mic. I had to cough for a second. Okay, before I do the regression index, let me just do this. So I'm going to work with this table up here. So instead of copying the table down, I'm just going to go equals this. And then I'm just going to copy it down and across, right? That way, if I change this to a 2, it'll change down here. Oh, you know what? Let me do it a different way. I'm not even going to do that. Let me get rid of that. We don't really need to repeat the table. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go parentheses X sub I minus X bar squared, right? And this X sub I, we'll go ahead and subscript it. Oop. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to take, it's going to be equal to this. I'm going to put parentheses around it, right? Parentheses, this X sub I minus this X bar that we calculated here. Now the problem is I'm going to copy this formula down and I don't want it to move from here. So I want it to go down to here, down to here, down to here, and I copy it down. But I always want it to subtract this. So I'm going to hit F4. I could type $signs, but F4 makes it so it's called an absolute reference. And then I'm going to square it, right? So I'm just doing exactly what it is up here. X sub I minus this, and then the whole quantity squared. And then I'm going to copy that down. Okay. And so now I have each one, and then finally you want to sum them. So now I can go equals, let me do it right down here. I can go equals regression index. And then what I want to do is I sum that. It just means add them together. So I'm going to go here and hit this auto sum. And this is what I want to add together. And it's 6. So that's the answer. Okay. So again, now if I change this to 3, that's going to change my answer down here, right? So I have a template. If I have a problem with it exactly like this with 4 items, I could just change these numbers and it automatically recalculates. So if this came up on an exam, again, you would have a template, right? I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see the whole problem. Okay? So I'm going to stop there. Hopefully that will be helpful for you. So we covered chapter 1, chapter 2, and a little bit of chapter 3, and in about 19 minutes. That's not too bad, 20 minutes. So anyway, this kind of replaces what we went over yesterday for you those use the MIST class in Bartlesville. I apologize for the technical difficulties we had. All right, that's it for today. Thank you. By the way, I sent you a file the other day that was very similar to this, so I'm not going to send you this file. Check your student email. All right, thank you.